Hey, Sam, guess what?
What?
The Canes just lost to the Senators. Maybe they should fire Rod.
Maybe they should. Just kidding. We're kind of just making that joke just because of the recent sudden firings of a couple of head coaches. One we will get to, one we've already said in previous episode. But Andrew, what a dud that was against Ottawa.
Yeah, you could tell the guys were gassed back to back with travel. Ottawa desperately needed this game,
Yep.
but you know what? I think we still saw a couple of guys have good performances. I actually thought that when they were on the ice, that Kokniemi and Delorier had some good physical moments, and Freddie, despite what the goal tally says, actually made some big saves. So I think it's a flush it game and just try to build on what you did right.
Exactly. But as usual, remember, guys, we have a great partnership with SeatGeek. You get $20 off your first purchase if you use promo code Caniac Report, all one word. You can actually see that right down here on the banner. There, more where Andrew is at. And also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss another episode. And also, if you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, please leave a rating and a review. Again, it really does help us out if you do that. So, Andrew, actually, a couple more podcast news one did too. One, the game plan for the playoffs in terms of the podcast. It's going to be the same like it was last year, where we will be recording after every playoff game because, Andrew, every playoff game we know is important.
Yep, and we want to give you guys the most fresh and raw reactions that we can. And as we were discussing before we press record, I usually can't fall asleep for a few afters after a playoff game anyway, so might as well help each other digest it a bit.
Yep, exactly. And a little bit of a heads up here. So Thursday night are going to be playing at Chicago. This is an 8:30 p.m. game, and because of that, we will only be recapping for Friday's episode the one game, which is Tuesday at home, the last home game against Boston. That Chicago game will be recapped on Monday's episode. Sorry, but we need sleep. So,
Yep, we need to bank our sleep now because if this team goes on a deep run, I'm sure we're going to be exhausted just like the players by the time it's done.
yes, it definitely will. So, that is the plan, obviously, for the playoffs. So, Andrew, the one thing I want to talk about regarding news around the league, it happened today. Patrick Raw is fired as the Islanders head coach, and they replace him with Pete DeBoer. And Andrew, we know when it comes to Pete DeBoer, he usually gives a little bit more offense to his teams.
Yeah, coming off of a pretty good tenure with the Dallas Stars, which among other reasons, seemed to really kind of come to an end after he really threw Jake Ottinger under the bus at the end of their playoff run. So it'll be interesting to see
Mm-hmm.
how he handles kind of a young up and coming team. But you know, the Islanders they were pretty secure in a spot. They dropped four in a row. Felt they needed to make a change.
Yeah, it's very interesting timing. You would think this might be an off season type of move, Andrew, but they do it right before the playoffs start. And here's the thing: every team, I mean, even the Hurricanes, we go on losing streaks at least once throughout the season because it's 82
Mhm.
games. I just find out just because of the timing, you know.
Yeah, I thought that the Vegas one made a little more sense just because it's a veteran group. You bring in a guy like Tortorella, you know, they might
Yeah.
respond to that kind of coaching. The Islanders, maybe overachieving is not the right way to say it, but I didn't have them making the playoffs to start the year.
I
So
didn't either.
them, yeah, so them maybe like missing it by a little bit, what could even be seen as maybe not a success, but like so many of their young guys took stride. Schaefer is very clearly the real deal.
Mhm.
So a bit of a surprising move, but maybe they're hoping that this little bit of a shakeup gets that group's act together and they can still make the playoffs. But even if they do, I don't see it being a team that can really go on that deep of a run. So maybe they had their eyes on the board the whole time and figured the way things are going, you might as well. Because I
Yeah.
was kind of shocked that he made it this long without a coaching job.
Yeah, I am too. He's been a very excellent coach. Obviously, he's coached Dallas as his most recent tenure that we already talked about. We'll see how he does with the Islanders. See if he can get a little bit more scoring out of them because that's been the Islanders' hurdle. Obviously, it's not the goaltending, it's not the defense, it is the offense. But it does help the offense a little bit when you do have Schaefer because Schaefer is an amazing player.
Yeah, already one of the more entertaining guys in the league, and it's really scary to think about what he's going to be able to become once he gets just more and more time and more experience at this level.
Yep, definitely. So that's all I want to talk about surrounding news around the NHL because we have quite a bit of stuff to talk about Hurricanes news, actually. And one of that is a good piece of news because Andrew, word has it that Kochetkov was back on the ice skating. Now, it's not like he participated in practice or anything, but he skated at the very end of practice recently. And that's a good sign in and of itself.
Yeah, good to see Piotr back around the team. Seems like a really popular guy in the room. So even if he's still got a ways before he comes back, just him being back around the guys, maybe this time of the year gives them a much needed lift. Something to be happy about in the moment while they're just waiting for what I'm sure feels like forever for the playoffs to get here. But hopefully, maybe this is a sign that later in the playoffs, if need be, he can be available. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that to begin with. But hope that he is at least feeling more comfortable and glad that he's back around the boys.
Yeah, definitely. Now, here's the thing, obviously, when it comes to Kochetkov. Like, we don't know. I mean, I think every Hurricanes fan kind of expect him. He ain't, or expect that he ain't going to come back in the playoffs, obviously. But it puts a little bit of a thought in the back of your mind. Again, not much, but just a little bit of a thought of like, maybe not. But obviously, I think we will definitely know if he does make a sort of appearance in the playoffs once he actually practices with the team.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for it again. I think it's more just if he felt good enough to be on the ice, you might as well get him back around the guys. It's just good probably for his mental. I'm sure he's been around, but actually being on the ice with the team probably gives him a little bit more motivation to keep pushing in his rehab. The guys get to see that their friend is feeling good enough to be out there. So probably just a good vibes move, but you never know. Come like round 2 or 3, you might need that third goalie. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, crazy things have happened. I mean, I remember during Tulsi's press conference at when it came to trade deadline day, he said he kind of expected Kochetkov to be back when Brind'Amour said no. So we'll see. We'll see with Kochetkov. The next thing I want to talk about, Andrew, this happened last night in Elliot Friedman's Saturday Night Headlines, but apparently Nashville, we know that they're searching for a general manager. Well, they asked permission to try and get Tulsi to interview for the position. They were denied that. But we do know the assistant general manager, Darren York, did interview. And I mean, it makes sense. You're an assistant general manager. You want to get more of a promoted position to be general manager. And I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it's a sign that teams are seeing what Tulsi's done with this more an analytical style of managing, whilst also surrounding him with more traditional hockey minds to help kind of guide that more mathematical based roster building. So maybe they talk to a guy like Darren York, who's obviously been studying under Tulsi's wing. And as for the request for Tulsi, like I don't see any world where the Hurricanes say yes, but kind of like that overzealous buddy of yours telling you, hey, go ask. The worst they can say is no.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not the only assistant general manager that interviewed. From what I heard, there are quite a few assistant general managers interviewing for that position. We'll see what happens. But if Darren York leaves the organization, one, I'm very confident in this team for getting his replacement. And second, good for him for getting a promoted type of position, being an actual general manager for a team that has some interesting pieces.
Yeah, and I think whenever you see a guy make a horizontal move like that, it does say something about the organization where he came from. So if Darren York were to get that job, I would wish him the best of luck. But I would kind of say that that's kind of a case in point that the league recognizes how well that the Canes are running their team.
Yep, definitely. I can tell you're trying to be like the hockey guy a little bit with the Cats.
Yeah, this is our guest star. This is actually Raz, named after Peter Mrazek, because I got her right as that 2019 Cup ran start. So I've mentioned her before, but there she is in all of her glory.
Yeah, for those of you who are just listening, his cat appeared. So, yep. So Andrew, another thing that we all know, especially as Canes fans, because we like watching the team, FanDuel Sports Network, the network that houses the Hurricanes here locally. That's how we watch them. They will be ending their services. Obviously, Andrew, you watch the Hurricanes in a different way through what was it, NHL Net
Center ice. So I usually get about half the Canes broadcast, and then when they're on the road, it's like 50-50 of whether I can watch Mike and Trip or if I have to watch the away broadcast.
Okay, yes, that's right. NHL Center ice. So I have FanDuel because I'm here local, and with being local and you have FanDuel, you'll be able to watch the Hurricanes. But honestly, this is more of a business side of things when it comes to the Hurricanes. Andrew, honestly, if they were to close FanDuel Sports Network, I think most Hurricane fans would not mind that, considering we have had issues of watching them in the past. And honestly, if I was Tom Dundon, and this is just my idea, I would use our own rights and just create another subscriber platform, kind of like Netflix or Disney Plus, just make it to where people can subscribe,
Yeah, some teams have already been experimenting with that. I want to say the Ducks have their Victory Plus program, I think it's called. So there are teams doing it, and we're in not to get too far into it with it. We're in very much kind of a Wild West phase of streaming services and all that kind of stuff going on right now. So with them having seemingly bounced between different carriers every other season now, it feels like for the past few years, maybe it would just make sense for them from a business standpoint to just kind of take ownership of their own product. Now you control the broadcast, and you can make it the full production that you want to. So I hope that's the route that they go.
I mean, I really do too. I mean, we'll see what the pricing is if they do. I could totally see Tom Dundon being like, "Hey, if you have season tickets with us, you get a discount, or you get a different plan. That's cheaper." So that'd be interesting.
Yeah, Dundon. I know you're a big fan of the Caniac Report. Maybe give those of us up here in Boston a break. Center ice is pricey, man.
Yes, it is, and I think the biggest thing, honestly, for us Canes fans, Andrew, there's always the blackout concerns. Make sure the subscription works anywhere else, however you're located, whether you're a Canes fan out in Russia to a Canes fan here being local. I think that's just the most important thing is we just want a good, reliable service to watch the Canes games and not have to worry about blackouts.
Yeah, the blackouts can be tough. I know up here, it was rough for a while because whenever they would play the Bruins, I would get stuck watching the Nesson broadcast, and he's beloved up here, all that kind of stuff. But of all the Boston sports figures that I could not stand the most, I think Jack Edwards might have been the worst. Could not stand his play-by-play calling.
You're not the only one.
No,
Lots of fans do not like Jack Edwards.
no. Pretty much everyone outside of Boston don't like him, and everybody in Boston would probably fight you just for saying anything about it. Which, I mean, for what it's worth, there's something charming about that. But too bad I'm not a Bruins fan, Jack. You suck.
Yeah. All righty. Well,
Hope you're
Andrew.
enjoying retirement.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's a new month, which means, as we try to usually do as a routine, as you guys can tell, is whenever it's a new month, we set our expectations for the month and we deal with 3 stars of the month before. So, Andrew, 3 stars of the month of March. How do you want to
Let's
do this?
go. Let's each give our 3 stars because I think I got mine ready to rattle off.
Okay. I you know what? I'm still. You want to go first since I'm kind of thinking a
Yeah.
little bit.
So 3rd star, I'm going to give it to the guy who struggled through the season to fully embrace the role, but I think recently has really grown into it. 3rd star of the month, I'm going to give to Logan Stankoven. I think his line has really set the tone the past month, and I think his recent offensive outburst is a great sign going into the playoffs. 2nd star, I'm going to give to Jacob Slavin. I think he has returned to form, especially in the last week or so here, and that might be the greatest sign going forward because for a while there he was, not playing bad, but he looked mortal, whereas Jacob Slavin usually just looks like an unbeatable poke check waiting to happen. And the 1st star, I'm guessing we're gonna share this one. It's got to be Fly. It's got to be Nick Ehlers.
Yeah, those are good players. I would say number 3, the star. That is going to be. You know what? I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it to Taylor Hall.
I like it.
I'm giving it to Halsey. I think he's been excellent. Obviously, he got a goal tonight. He got his 300th career goal. Excellent for him. But he has been solid on that line with Stankoven and Blake, more so than I thought. And he really showed that, I think, this past month. And he's been putting up a lot of assists, a few goals. I'm giving the 3rd star. To me, my 2nd star, he's on the heater right now. You already said his name, Logan Stankoven. He has just been doing so well. Obviously, I think you could tell most of his goals probably came in the later half of March in the first half, but he's still been very, very good. His face-off percentage is getting better, even though tonight was a rough night in the face-off circle for everybody. But Stankoven has really, really shown that he can be that second line center. Not now. I still don't think he's that second line center now, but he is showing that the future is bright for him in that position. And to me, number 1, I agree with you. It has to be Nick Ehlers. It just does. Oh my gosh, he's just fantastic, and like, you would not expect him to play as good as he's been playing, especially when we signed him. Like, I expect him to be good, but the fact that he's already been hitting career highs just shows that, like what Adam Gold said, he is a line of his own. He's that massively skilled. I think he's probably the most skilled guy on this team, and obviously one of those trades is I think he's the best skater.
I think there's a good argument for both of those. If you want to say who has the best combination of skill and skating ability, that I think you can say is absolutely Ehlers. Maybe you can make an argument there's a guy in one of those categories better, but I think Ehlers has proven that maybe he kind of, in a way, replaces what Nate just needed to do for this team, especially in terms of their entries. But whereas Nate just, maybe you sacrifice a little bit of that, super high end puck handling and explosiveness for just what's been all in all a pretty sound defensive performance. There's even been a couple of games in recent memory where you've seen him, kind of throwing hits that you wouldn't expect a guy like that to make. So not only do I think he's just made that line with Jordan and with Stahl and Martin look really dangerous, but we know that those two guys have a tendency to kind of get hot come playoff time. And Jordan Stahl, this has just been and just has been a fountain of youth season. So that line, I think that the fact that you have a hard time deciding who the real second line on this team is, that's a good problem to have.
Oh, it really is. So expectations for the month of April, Andrew. We know playoffs start in April. Um, if you want your expectations to go into the playoffs, that's fine. I'm just focusing on regular season. I would say just regular season. Be healthy. That's to me is the most important thing is be healthy for the playoffs.
Be healthy. Go, play good 500 hockey. Try to keep your intensity up. Try not to let bad habits creep in. But push comes to shove. Like, I don't want to see anybody trying to block a shot with their skate. I don't want to see Seth doing any more of these crazy kamikaze dives into the posts. None of that's worth it right now. And like, it's so tricky because I think there is something to be said about when you play not to get hurt. That's when accidents can happen.
Yep.
But there's a few guys on this team that I think Rod just needs to kind of grab and be like, hey, listen, I appreciate the effort. I really do. There's bigger fish to fry. And like, granted, you would love to see them lock up that top spot in the East. That only really becomes a factor should both Carolina and Buffalo make the Eastern Conference Finals, which, I think there's a good chance that does happen, but I don't think it's worth a guy getting hurt trying to, squeeze that one extra point out of the regular season when, for short of an absolute collapse, they got home ice advantage for the first two rounds.
Yep, definitely. All righty. So the first game, the game that's a lot better to talk about compared to the two games. And that is the win against the Islanders. Andrew, this was not a pretty win. I'm sure you would agree with that.
No, not pretty, and yet a statement all the same in my opinion. I think that the Canes, whether it was these most recent games against Columbus or even the Islanders, they've really just kind of shown that they just have a different level of talent on the team compared to those two.
Oh, yeah, they definitely do. So the first goal goes to the Islanders with Gat Combe, and we know Bussy is in net. To be honest, I mean, when I saw that play unfold, I mean, it was a little bit of a 2-on-1, obviously, and you had Holmstrom kind of pass that to Gat Combe right there where Bussy's at. I know there might be some people, but that might blame Bussy for that. I don't blame Bussy for that goal, to be honest. I don't. I mean, I don't think any of the goals were on him. I mean, I think if you compared all three, though, you could probably say the first one was mostly on him. But even then, I don't blame that goal a lot on Bussy.
Yeah, whenever a team is able to make just a cross ice pass like that cleanly, that close to the net, it's really hard for the goalie to get over. And it looked like Holmstrom was able to just squeak it in, like basically barely missing the post. So a savable goal, not a bad goal, might be the way to describe that one. But sometimes you do have to tip your cap to the other team, and that was a great play by the Islanders.
Yeah, it really was. They kind of caught our defenseman a little bit napping there. The next goal, though, we did tie it because Seth Jarvis, he got a wonderful pass from Sean Walker. He goes up, and it's not really much of a breakaway because he had an Islanders player right there almost with him, but he is able to snipe that goal. And I can tell you, Andrew, of all the sellies that Jarvis has made after scoring goals, probably one of the top ones right there where he jumps like 5 feet into the air.
Oh yeah, he basically doubled his height.
Yeah.
That's really impressive, man. Because those skates aren't light. The legs got to be heavy after a breakaway like that. So really impressive stuff from Jarvis. Never mind the shot, which was really good. Jarvis needed that one, man. Jarvis needed that so bad. He has been the most snake bitten guy on this team. You could tell he was getting frustrated with himself. He's had a chance maybe in these last handful of games or 5 or 6 goals. I don't think that's an unrealistic thing to say that he could have scored that. He's been putting himself in these positions, whether it's play or whether it's a power play or 5-on-5. So good to see him finally put one in.
It definitely is. And I agree, he could have gotten a lot more goals in the recent games. But I do think if you look at this Islanders game, Andrew, that first line I thought was probably the best line. Uh, I mean, again, I'm not saying they've been bad the past few games. I just thought they really amped up the urgency against the Islanders, you know?
Yeah, you can tell. I think that they went into this game knowing they were going against Sorokin. Like, okay, let's show we can put up some points against, at worst the second best goalie we might run into in the Eastern Conference, because it's Sorokin or it's Vasilevsky. They're the two best goalies in the East this
Yep.
year. So I think that probably had some motivation going to it, and then they're very aware of the fact that they've been underachieving for how hard and how well they've been playing. So I think that they answered the bell. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, they definitely did. Now, obviously, you get into the second period, tied 1-1. Then you have Shabanov scoring from the Islanders. Andrew, that's definitely, we all know that is not on Bussy, but you can tell one player that could have done a little bit better defending there was Nikishin, because Ghost was already behind the net, pinning the Islanders player to the wall. I did not know why Nikishin went back there.
Yeah, he got caught chasing the puck a little bit instead of staying in position. You can maybe argue that Bussy should have known the pass was going to come out that way, but when your defenseman just absolutely leaves his side of the net open like that, there's a limit to what you're going to be able to do. So, just one of these teaching moments for Kishin, and I'm sure that Rod and the coaching staff showed it to him. And these are the blemishes that we keep talking about. Not trying to harp on the Keishan, because the sky is the limit. I think we both made it very clear we're both really huge fans of him and his future, but it's moments like that where you go, to some of the people who act like he's already a top pair defenseman. No, that right there is why he is not. And it's going to come with time. It will. I have nothing but faith, but still a rookie. And he showed it there.
Yes, he definitely showed he was a rookie there. But we were able to score 2 goals in that period to take the lead. You have Jackson Blake scoring from Stankoven, who muscled a guy probably twice his height. Just pass it to Blake, and probably a goal Sorokin probably should have had, maybe, because it was 5-0. But regardless, wonderful play. Blake scores. And again, I credit Blake for the goal. I really, really do. But that play was made by Stankoven alone. Just amazing how he was just able to muscle to get that puck.
Yeah, I thought this play kind of summed up the game, because the Islander player in question was Mayfield, who had some let's call them questionable hits in that game. It was definitely trying to mix it up. So I think when you have a guy trying to throw his weight around like that, trying to be a bully, and you have a guy like Logan Stankoven just reverse hit him, just go through his chest to get a puck, and then immediately be able to bounce back and make a pass to Blake like that, who, Blake, he's another guy where as the season's gone on, you can just see the growth. You can see these young guys just as they're becoming smarter players, as they're developing that chemistry. Stankoven and Blake might not be broken up for a few seasons here. I think that they play really well together.
They do, and they play somewhat of a similar game where it's kind of they're forecheck heavy, and they're so naturally skilled. I think I would say Blake is a little bit better of a passer, and Stankoven's a little bit better of a shooter. But regardless, those two players, they love that forechecking, high forecheck type of game.
Yeah, they're both. Usually you say this for guys who play with, for lack of a better term, a little bit more edge, but they're both kind of pesty. And
They are.
I think pesty players are what this team needs. Even guys like Aho. Aho's a guy who, and I would use this term as a compliment. I know it's kind of this is the phrase in hockey that, depending on who you're talking about and why, it's either an insult or a compliment. Aho's got a bit of rat to him. Like he does little tiny, not dirty things, but things to get under the opponent's skin. And if you're not going to be a big team, but you still want to be able to try to get that mental edge on your opponent, that is one way to do it. You do that, you get them upset, and then you have the mental discipline to kind of turn the other cheek and let the ref make the call. I
Mm-hmm.
think guys like Stankoven and Blake are really taking that concept to heart.
Yeah, they really are. And I'm happy to talk about Aho because he scored the next goal, another shorthanded goal for the Hurricanes. I believe they're the league leaders now in terms of shorthanded goals of 12. And you had Jarvis and Aho with a 2-on-1 chance, shorthanded. Aho was able to score. Again, I am very happy Aho scored. But I will say one thing that I might be a little bit concerned with heading into the playoffs. Now, when it comes to playoff times, all bets are off
Mm-hmm.
completely, or you just never know which players are going to get hot. But right now, the one thing I am concerned with is Aho's ability to score a goal 5-on-5. It has been 10 games since he has scored a 5-on-5 goal, and that was at Tampa back in March. So, I'd like to see him score a little bit more 5-on-5 goals. But with that being said, playoffs are kind of a new restart for teams. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think for especially the veterans on this team, which kind of like what we were talking about last podcast about how it's still kind of hard not to see Aho as just that bright-eyed young kid coming on the team. No, he's a grizzled playoff veteran at this point.
Oh, he
So
is.
they're you know guys like that. They're so over the regular season. They're probably almost annoyed that they have to show up to the ring today. Can't wait until they're the super veterans on the team like Stalin Martinhook, so that they get these days off. Which I mean, hopefully that's why they took the day off, was just for the rest. But I'm not going to fault the top guys too much if there's a slight edge to their game that's missing right now. Hope now the question is can you ramp back up? So I'll be curious to see what Aho does in game, say 81 and 82. I think if he can at least put one in those last two games to get some good vibes going for himself, I think he's going to be okay. I think that top line overall is playing excellent. They're just not getting the results you want yet.
Yeah, they aren't. But obviously, there was that time before they kind of got on that uh, topic of just playing well but not getting the goals. I mean, they were playing. They were still playing well and were getting the goals at one point. It was mainly the Stankoven line, if you remember, that just weren't getting the goals. It's been reversed,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a matter of time with them. But yeah, the playoffs are going to be a good, nice reset for them. And obviously, back to the game in the third period, Andrew. You have Jarvis scoring right off the gate, 24 seconds into the period. I thought he hit the post, to be honest. But he scored from and looked like an impossible angle.
Hey, sometimes that's how you know it was a perfect shot. You can't
Yeah.
believe it went in with no room to spare. Um, Jarvis and Aho, the two guys who I think need that good mojo more than anybody on this team right now. So hopefully they can keep getting it.
Yep. Definitely. And you get the assist from Sveshnikov and Miller. And as you can tell, Andrew, when Islanders pulled their goalie, they were really hemming the Hurricanes in their own zone. Obviously, at least scoring, but they were able to kind of hold on there at the end.
Yep, kudos to them for not throwing in the towel and getting that goal. But I think sort of like in the Columbus games, I think Carolina did show in this one that they are a different level of hockey team right now. Now, come playoffs, all bets are off. We've seen crazy things happen. I was saying in the last episode about how I think of all the playoff wild card teams I'm worried about is Philly, and they had a big win. So it doesn't matter who it is; they're going to be good. But I look at the Islanders as a team that is ahead of schedule and is actually overachieving in their standings.
Yes, they really are. The Ottawa game. I know we went through the goals individually in the Islanders game, Andrew. Let's not do that for this game because it's just going to one make us upset, and second, and second, I mean this game deserves more of a general pitcher type of or a bigger pitcher type of role because like there's so many factors contributing to this loss. I mean, we kind of already said it at the beginning of the episode, but you have Stahl Martinuk resting. That's going to change things.
Hmm.
And Ottawa's desperate. They're trying to be in the playoffs. And also the schedule too. This is the third game out of 4 nights. Carolina, and I mean you can tell they were gassed. Now it's awesome that we still got to see goals from this team. You had
Hmm.
Stankoven, Hall, and Svetch scoring. But I mean you have Brady Kachuk scoring twice and all that type of stuff. But I mean you can tell. I mean there were some good moments, but you can tell like Ottawa had control of the neutral zone. They just were faster with the puck. Carolina was a little bit slow.
A little bit slow. You can tell one team because I'm pretty sure Ottawa's had a similar run of 3 games in 4 days. So,
Mm-hmm.
but that was the difference though. Is Carolina, you know, didn't need this win for anything other than for that first place in the East, which isn't nothing. Ottawa's fighting for their life right now, and I think that really became apparent, especially as the game wore on. But that being said, I think that you saw some things from Carolina that they can say, all right, we flushed the result, but this looked good. This looked good. I think generally speaking, as far as games that are that high scoring are concerned, I thought Freddie made some good saves. That fifth goal, the one where Greg was able to just put the puck on net, it's easy because they went in to look at Miller and say he should have done more with Greg, but no, that's a rebound that Freddie needs to control, either cover or send it behind the net. That's the only real bad goal I think we saw from Freddie, which at that point the
It
game was
is.
kind of
It was a
over.
bad
Maybe
goal.
yeah, so, but maybe at that point Freddie himself was even just kind of over that game, which you don't want to make excuses, but human nature creeps in. I think that's how I sum up this game. I think we saw human nature of the Hurricanes run into desperation from Ottawa.
Yeah, and it's tough because like again, you can see the reasons why the players in front of Anderson might have an off game. It's just with Anderson, like I mean, you know how Brendan Moore does with his goalie tandem. He switches them every other game. So Anderson has a little bit more rest compared to these other players. So it's a little bit of a different scenario for him. So I could see it going both ways, honestly. But I do lean more to the fact that Anderson didn't really have the best crop of forwards on his side with Stahl and Martinook out. It,
Hmm.
it, I just don't think it's a good game to judge Anderson on. It just isn't.
No, no, and the tricky thing if you're Rod and the skaters on this team is that both Freddie and Bussy, at least I can only assume, we're not with these guys in the locker room. Maybe I'm way off here, but both guys who whatever confidence either of them can build going into the playoffs is so vital right now because of just that kind of shaky stretch and
Mm-hmm.
just how it became kind of the narrative about this team. And granted, I think goaltending is a fair thing to point out, but it's become I think every non-major market team, the national talking heads pick usually a very lazy narrative to roll with. And I think the goaltending's kind of been that because I think they both have shown flashes of great where, maybe not top tier in the league, but compared to a lot of these other playoff teams who I think have a much worse goaltending situation, I don't think it's been quite the same covered at the same extent that Carolina's has.
I would agree with that. Um, and like, so here's my question to you: when we found out that Stahl and Martinook were rested, basically, I mean, obviously, I don't think that was a bad choice considering where we're at in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it might have been a little bit too early for?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
not at all. I think everything, you know, because they've got the Metro one. I know it's not technically clinched yet, but they won the Metro. So the only thing really to play for right now, and
It's
you
the
don't want to make
conference.
right, and you don't want to make light of that. That is important to have. But would I trade, having to play the first 2 games on the road against Buffalo in the Eastern Conference Finals for literally anything else to not go wrong with this team? Yes, I would at this point. So if I'm Rod, what I'm doing is Delorier, KK, and Riley are playing every single game, and you just rotate guys to get them rest. Like every single player on this team should be getting at least one game off between now and then.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, here's the thing: our next game is Boston Tuesday, the final home game. I could see every player playing for that game, but I think after that, I think really you got to start. You have a 4 game road trip after that. I think that's when you seriously need to put the hammer down. Like, okay, we're resting players, and the first player I would rest, which is why I was shocked it was Stahl Martin that got first. The first player I would rest, Andrew, is Jacob Slavin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe even that's the one defenseman who rests, and you just let Riley go the rest of the way. But that being said, Slavin has very much returned the form these last few games, so maybe he's feeling good and doesn't need it. But if there's one guy you can't afford to miss, Slavin might be at the top of that list. If not, he's definitely number 3 or in top 3 without a doubt of guys that if he goes down, you might as well pack it up.
Yeah, I think he's number 1 just because it might have been the Islanders game where he might have gotten a hit and he was a little bit slow getting up. It might have been, but I was just like, oh no, because he was a little bit slow getting up. Regardless, he played an excellent game. It's just, I think out of all the players that we know, us fans know Slavin is not 100%, but he's still playing great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they can give him that little bit of time to try to get closer to 100. But we've seen this before, and it's so hard to guess. Like I don't envy Rod on some of these choices. Like the idea of putting in Kokoniemi and Delorier and like rotating forwards out. That's relatively easy. You kind of go on some, nicks and bruises here and there. And if say everybody is relatively healthy, you just, basically do one line, and you let Kokoniemi and Delorier just get some reps in, let them get back up to speed, let them be ready. I'm going to say it again. I thought that both Delorier and Kokoniemi threw some pretty impactful hits in this game. So I do think that they made their presence felt. I think they both showed that they're ready and that they can contribute, even if it's just in a 4th line grinding role, which we're going to need those guys. And, I'm still holding on to that little grain of sand of hope I have that we're going to see the Kokoniemi revenge tour in the playoffs.
I'm hoping because I have no optimism for that. But
no. Yeah. Sometimes hope is all we got.
Exactly. Funny enough, Sam even said, just imagine KK's playing in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals and he scores a goal.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to. How great would it be if? Oh God, I can picture it. If we run into Montreal in the playoffs and Kokoniemi scores a series clinching goal.
That'd be something. That really would be. Oh man. But that there's a lot of what ifs when it comes to the playoffs because we just don't know yet. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of anything to talk about this Ottawa game. You think of anything else?
Man, I think this was such a 2 teams in different mindsets, back-to-back nights with travel for Carolina. You take the things you did right, you try to grow on them, you take the things you did wrong, and you go over the tape, and then you flush it and act like it never happened. This is a big old nothing burger for me.
Same here. I was just like, whatever. I will admit one thing though that I will say on the power play. Now I know we scored on the power play. I'm not going to harp on the power play too much. I just would like to see Nikishin make more slap shots. That's all.
You know what? I'm actually glad that you brought that up because he was definitely a little passive. Now it could be that it's just sometimes it's hard to fully appreciate what the defender's doing in front of them because from the bird's eye view you get from the broadcast, like you can't always appreciate the sticks in the lane, what they see, because Nikishin also needs to factor in whenever he takes a slap shot. You don't want to wind up taking out one of your own guys if you can avoid it. But also, say someone gets a stick on it before that slap shot has a chance to even get off the ice, you're getting a major deflection going the other way, and then it could be a break. So
Yeah,
maybe it's a sign of Nikishin being smarter, but generally speaking, I agree. Nikishin needs to have 4 shots on goal every night. Like, I think that should be his main thing.
especially when you have power play opportunity. That's to me is the biggest thing. But that's pretty much it for this episode. I believe, how many episodes do we have till the playoffs? Oh
4,
gosh.
I think.
Yeah, four more episodes. And probably what we'll do is, because I know the schedule was kind of released, I think playoffs start on the 18th and 19th of that weekend, that third weekend. Probably what we'll do that Friday is, because I do, we'll talk about it off while we're done recording, but we'll probably have some of a preview of each series, probably, at least, Andrew. Think that's deserving.
Yep, and brace for y'all. We're gonna get stuck with the 2 p.m. Sunday slot. I can just feel it.
I don't want that. I do not want that.
The disrespect continues, everybody. It's us against them.
It's us against them. Exactly. Well, we will see you guys next time.